Hello, I'm Harvie S., and I'm here at Kolstein, NYC. Hello, I'm Harvie S., and I'm here today at Kolstein, NYC, and we're doing Series 2 of Bass in the Corner interviews with what I call the lifeblood of the New York music scene. These are the bass players that make it all happen. You see them in all the clubs and you hear them on records, and they make records as a leader. These are the people that make it really happen, and I'm just so thrilled to be able to do this series. And here I have the wonderful Ben Allison.
Hey, Harvie.
Thank you, Ben. Welcome.
Yeah, good to be here. This is a cool project. I'm glad you're doing it.
Thank you. Yeah. So, I usually, you look at people can go Ben Allison on Wikipedia. He did
Sure.
this, he did that, and all that. But basically, Wikipedia is not that updated. So, you're doing some stuff now, which, tell us a little bit about that.
What's going on right now?
Yeah, what's going on? The next month or two, or because I know with you always good stuff.
Yeah. I guess the thing that's happening right now is a new record.
Ah, there you go.
Still making records. It's coming out in a couple of weeks.
Well, that's good. This will coincide.
Good. The record's called Tell the Birds I Said Hello. The music of Herbie Nichols.
Oh,
So you
nice.
know I'm a devotee of Herbie's music. I've been studying it, researching it, playing it, recording it for over 30 years. And this is a project that I have with saxophonist Ted Nash and guitarist Steve Cardenas. This will be our fourth record. And the music on this record is Herbie himself never recorded. So it's all there's 6 tunes that are new in the sense that they were recently uncovered.
Oh, I'm dying to hear that.
And some of his most beautiful music, and he never recorded it. So this will be the first chance for people to hear it, and we're excited about it. It comes out February 2nd. I'm not sure when this is airing, but whenever it is.
Sometime in the
That's right.
When that CD is coming out and
Yeah,
sounds
and
like
streaming and all that stuff.
That's a very special project.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, okay, then that's a good thing. And now, it's interesting. I always find this with bass players, when you're young, it's not like normal to say, I want to be a bass player.
Yeah.
But yet so many of us have ended up as bass players. So, how did you get into becoming a bass player?
Good question. Well, I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. The public school system had a really cool performing arts program called the Educational Center for the Arts. So you could go to high school in the morning and then this art school in the afternoon. So I got into that program. I was very grateful. And I was playing guitar at the time.
Oh, okay.
And studying hand drumming percussion, like West African, Haitian, Cuban drumming. Just trying to, learn a little bit about rhythm. And I guess it was junior year, we were going to do a Motown review for the final concert of the year. And the day of the concert, the bass player called in sick. So the band director's like, Allison, you're on bass. And I'm like, well, I'd never played bass before.
You got to be James Jamerson.
That's right. Well, he's like, it's just like the guitar, but the bottom 4 strings and an octave lower. So then I went and listened to the James Jamerson. I just had a few hours to figure it out.
And he's enough to make you say, oh my God.
I realized it was a whole lot more than just the bottom 4 strings of a guitar. And in fact, the roll of the bass and the sound of it is what appealed to me. I was hanging on for dear life in that concert, but I really immediately found an affinity with it. I guess it's kind of like the combination of the guitar and the drum in the sense. I mean, at least that's how it felt to me, especially when I started moving over to acoustic bass. I realized that's kind of its role. So that's how I've approached the instrument ever since.
So you played the concert on there, and then you said,
Yeah.
that's it. And so you started on electric bass.
That's right.
And then eventually you decided, I want to play one of these guys.
Yeah, actually my first bass lesson was with Steve Swallow, who lived the next town over. I didn't really know who he was at the time, but he laid out a whole bunch of things for me to work on,
Oh,
which
you
I
couldn't
took to
find it
heart.
better,
Incredible. Somewhere I still have all the stuff he wrote out for me.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I got to find it, but that was awesome.
I love Steve Swallow. He's always one of my favorite, on acoustic bass and electric too. I love
Yeah.
what he did. But that record called Interaction
Mm-hmm.
with Art Farmer.
Yeah.
Oh my God, some of the bass playing on that solos just over the top.
Yeah.
So now, as musicians, we get into weird situations, whether we
Yes.
like it or not. I hope today isn't too weird for you. But you maybe have some funny stories or interesting. Being a bass player, you might have an interesting view on something. So I wanted to get into something like that.
An interesting story, like
Something you want to talk about as a bass player. It can be. This is Ben Allison time.
All right. Well, I'm looking at this poster of Scott LaFaro, and it reminds me that when I was young, one of the first trio records that I heard in the jazz idiom was the Bill Evans records with Scott LaFaro playing, and Waltz for Debbie, and I was immediately enamored with his sound and his approach. And I read somewhere, I think in the liner notes, that he had a Prescott bass. So I'd heard through the grapevine that somebody in New Haven had a Prescott bass.
Ooh.
I went over to I found the person, I went over to his house. There was a bass sitting in the corner. It was kind of in a state of disrepair. I asked if I could play it. I just kind of played it for a while. It needed a new fingerboard. It was starting to kind of fall apart a little bit. And I said, well, will you sell it to me? This guy is, he still is, but he was then also an art dealer. So his job was to buy and sell art, visual arts. But he used to be a bass player. And he said, this bass represents for me that time when I was an artist. And now I buy and sell art, which I enjoy, but being an artist was special. And this represents that for me, so I don't want to sell it because, and I said, well, as beautiful as this isn't just a piece of art that you put in the corner. This needs to be played. I mean, its purpose in life is to be played. And if you sell it to me, I'm going to fix it up, and I'm going to make it sound great, and more importantly, I'm going to make music with it for the rest of my life, and I'm going to love it. So he went upstairs. Half hour later, he came back down. He said, you're right. I'm going to sell it to you. And I'm going to sell it to you for what I paid for it in the early 70s because I don't want to profit off of this because it's pure. And I said, I will not argue with you. And then he did.
What did you pay?
You want me to tell you?
Yeah, tell us. Make us all feel bad.
It wasn't. It was actually, for me, a lot of money at the time.
Yeah, tell me.
I think it was about $6,500, something like that.
Yeah.
And I went to David Gage the next day, and he appraised it at closer to 24.
Yeah, and now.
Yeah, now it's much more than that. But yeah, it was just one of those moments that and it's been my bass ever since. It was like early '90s, probably.
Wow. You're lucky. I've gone through a lot of basses.
Yeah.
But now I have the ones, thanks to Kolstein. But that's a great story.
Yeah, and it was the bass. It was the Kolstein, because I had actually played the Scott LaFaro bass that they had rebuilt at a convention somewhere years ago, and that was so I had this name of Prescott in my mind, and I like the fact that they're from Concord, New Hampshire. It's an American bass, and this bass, the one I have, is in remarkably good shape. I mean, there were seams that had opened up and needed a new fingerboard, a new bridge, but I attribute it to the fact that it's like local trees. It's like a local bass. It's been here since 1840 or so, and it's pristine.
That's great. Yeah, and so now, did Barry Kolstein do all the work and fix it up, or who fixed it?
Actually, no.
Okay, he didn't. That's okay.
Sorry. Can I mention who the person is?
Yeah.
So David
David
Gage.
Gage
So
did it. Yeah, sure.
he's been my guy forever because I lived in the neighborhood and he was local, and I went to him, and he's just a tremendous cat. So that was my guy for a long time until he retired.
But now, what do you think of the shop here?
Man, I'm really digging it. I'm looking around. I love, obviously, all the basses, and I love the space of it. And it makes me feel like this would be a great place for a bass hang. Like, we got to get a bunch of bass players down here to play and hang out and listen to music.
That's in the works. That is in the works. There'll be since I've been working here, I do a jam session every 2 weeks, and a lot of great players have come by, and we're doing one this Wednesday on the 24th.
Nice.
And then I'm doing some more in February, I think. And then what I do is I do a thing called it's Harvie's Picks, because they have Harvie's Corner here, and I pick out basses, and you played one of them this morning, that Fent,
cool,
that Barry built, and so I've been doing that, and then I want to have this New York Bass Club, because I'll tell you, when you walked in, you started to talk with Chip, and you talked with Ruben, and it's like, it was like a bass already, the beginnings of a fun time, and I could just see like a whole bunch of bass players in here all talking to each other, little groups of people.
Because we never see each other. I mean, that's the thing. There's usually one bass player on the gig, unless you're backstage at a festival when you run into each other, but then usually you're like trying to get on stage and then get back on the bus or whatever. I mean, saxophonists, horn players, they always get together and talk about reeds all day long.
Right, they're in a big band, and there's four or five saxophones.
Exactly.
And so they can hang out. So anyway, I want to do that.
That's good. I'm glad.
Be thrilled to have you. So basically, I think we covered everything, but
okay.
Anything you'd like to say to the audience, or just that's it. But anyway, Ben plays all over the city and tours, of course, too. But so, when you see him in a club, you can say, oh yeah, I saw his interview and I know who he is, and realize what a great musician he is, and it's not just a guy going thump, thump, thump. There's a real story there. All right, you're a bass player, but if you weren't going to play the bass, let's say you decide, I don't want to play the bass anymore, what would you do? And I know you have multi-talents, because you
well, that's
built
the
my
thing.
website years ago.
Yeah, that's true. I did get into technology kind of early, so I like technology. I mean, bass is a kind of technology, an old technology, but there's a lot of physics to it, and I dig it. I do really love mixing albums, so that's something I've had kind of as a side hustle for about 10 years. Mixed a ton of records, and so if I weren't playing, I'd probably be doing more of that.
Studio mixing and technology things.
I also teach. I'm on faculty at the New School, so I'm technically part-time, but I put in probably full-time-ish sort of hours over there. I got very involved in the Recording Academy for a number of years. I was on the local chapter. I was actually the president of that chapter for a couple of years and vice president, so I got very involved in advocacy through that. You may have heard of the Music Modernization Act.
Yeah.
So I had a non-small part to play in that. I was down there working on it with the legislators, just going through the halls of Congress, essentially lobbying for copyright reform.
That's important.
Running the nonprofit, was a lot of work. Now at the New School, I've gotten involved in what's called the Faculty Senate, so I'm working with the president and the provost on all of the and the board of trustees with all the financials of the organization. So I have a technological bone and also kind of a activist bone, I think, in my body that kind of shows up in lots of different ways, from the collective through the Recording Academy and now at the New School and all of the advocacy work. So I guess I've always done that. As I go through my career, there was a time where I was mostly writing TV commercials, and then there was a time where I was mostly touring with my bands. I've always made records. Nowadays, the teaching has become more. I'm happy to not tour as much, which I love touring. I love playing.
Hard work nowadays.
Actually, I love playing. I don't like touring so much. I like the being there. I don't like the getting there. So as that's kind of gone down, my involvement at the New School and my mixing stuff has kind of come up So it's all like varying degrees of things. So if I wasn't playing bass, it would be those other things,
Wonderful, which you're still doing anyway.
which I'm already doing.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Ben, for
my
being
pleasure.
here, and
That's it.
always a pleasure. That's it.